Gifting yourself a PS5 is the best thing you can do for male mental health.
I just play games every night. It is a part of my self-care routine.
It's self-care, dude.
Finally, India mein we're talking about two sports instead of one sport now. Cricket ke chess bhi aa gaya. If I tell people, do you play board games? More often than not, it's Scrabble, Monopoly, Ludo. The idea that board games can be for grown-ups is alien to most Indians. Indian films don't know how to make money. Indian films are fundamentally a loss-making industry because you need to be able to experiment, you need to be able to invest.
Yeah.
First thing we need to invest is in writers. I don't think there's anyone in India who has played games with more people than I have. Just playing this game, I've played board games with a few thousand Indians. India mein there are great game designers doing a lot of great work, but support ही नहीं है. कैसे करोगे?
Hey guys, welcome to Vaibhav Munjal podcast. I'm so excited about today's episode because today's episode is with Zain Memon. इन्होंने एक गेम बनाया जिसका नाम है शासन. शासन is a game जो मैंने personally बहुत खेला है. मेरी बहुत लड़ाई हुई है मेरे दोस्तों से, colleagues के साथ when we are playing this game. Zain is also the co-founder of Memesys Culture Lab and has led some of the most ambitious cinematic and narrative experiments from India. Zain से मैंने बहुत सारी बातें की हैं about the world of games, video games, board games. And he's such an interesting and fascinating mind that मेरे को ऐसे पर्सपेक्टिव्स मिले जो मुझे यूजुअली सुनने को नहीं मिलते हैं. So let's jump right inside the amazing conversation I had with Zain Memon on Vaibhav Munjal podcast. Hi Zain, how are you?
Great. Very excited to be here. Made my way to Jaipur after 4 years and I'm like, okay, I'm here for 6 hours. I have to meet Vaibhav. So here we are.
I'm so glad like I came to your party the other day जब like film bazaar चल रहा था. You guys are really good at throwing parties. I thought I was the only one.
First party we ever threw.
Was it?
Yeah, ever. While we do talk a lot, we are all very, very introverted. Like me, Anand, Vinay, Shreya, Aishwarya, we are like अपने में रहते हैं. We literally live in the middle of nowhere. It was also a very good year for us because Kani's 2 films did really well. Vinay's film did really well. Tumbad had re-released and like gotten some of the due which I think it deserves. It deserves much more. So we're like, yeah, let's celebrate this year. So we did that.
Yeah. In fact, like Kani is one of the films, Girls Will Be Girls. I think जितना मैंने उस फिल्म को last year promote किया, I haven't promoted any. I met Kani during the party and I said I liked it more than All We Imagine. And she's like, oh really? मैंने कहा yeah. But it was such a nice party. All the people were there. Like जो आप लोगों ने वो performance भी, वो राजस्थान से आए थे ना, the folk band which was there.
So Mukhtar Ali, second time you're working with him. First time, of course, we heard him. I heard him in Hadanad by Shabnam Virmani, her documentary, wonderful documentary. And then he has a small cameo in Ship of Thesis. वो हॉस्पिटल रूम में दादी बीमार है और मुख्तियार भी परफॉर्म कर रहा है. We knew him from then. We were like, please can you come down and just grace the evening?
Yeah.
क्योंकि dancing on Punjabi pop you can only so many times you can do that, right?
Yeah. But Zain मैं आपको Instagram पे तो बहुत टाइम से फॉलो कर रहा हूँ and because ये जो गेम है यहाँ पे शासन मेरी क्लोज में भी आ जाए, हम बहुत खेलते हैं यार इसको स्टूडियो में. लाइक 2-4 लोग चलचित्र छोड़ चुके हैं बिकॉज इतनी लड़ाइयाँ हो जाती है खेलने के बाद.
I get that wherever I go कि यार गेम अच्छा है but Kalesh literally this one person I met who made me sign a copy that they had renamed to Kalesh Shasan.
हाँ, Kalesh edition.
Yes.
This is the only game because हमारी जो disjointed like joint family है, like it brought so many people together because मैं New Year's पे लेके गया था and it was such an amazing experience. All the chachus and all सब आके पहली बार एक गेम खेल रहे हैं and we haven't done something like this in years.
बात करें पॉलिटिक्स की.
One of my chachus is like he's getting very excited कि अब अगला कार्ड कौन सा आएगा, like what's the situation this time. बहुत अच्छा लगा है. Like it is कलेश भी कर रहा है but it is also bringing families together.
The core idea was that I want to talk to you about politics. But I want to talk to you about politics and not politicians. That was the first idea. The second idea was I also want to give you a way out.
Yeah.
And by that I mean is, I say something, I take a stand, I read the room, and if the room is not agreeing with me, there might be an argument. So I say, no, I am only saying this for the game. But the conversation has been opened up. And there have been so many people who have written to me who have said कि यार ये conversation कभी नहीं हो पाता था घर पे, अब हो गया.
So I have a theory about like the social like settings. जैसे हम किसी से भी मिलते हैं, so why do we drink or why do people smoke up? मेरे को ऐसा लगता है because after a point of time gossip खत्म हो जाती है, कुछ करने के लिए नहीं होता, तो लोग ड्रिंक करते हैं, स्मोक अप करते हैं. मेरे को एक टाइम के बाद रियलाइज हुआ मेरे को तो मज़ा नहीं आ रहा है इसमें. and then we discovered board games. I think of games as a replacement of drinking. क्योंकि जब 4 लोग अकेले बैठते हैं बात करने के लिए एक टाइम के बाद कुछ होता नहीं.
बोलो कितने बार बोलोगे कॉलेज में जाते क्या करते थे, स्कूल में बताया क्या करते. There's only so many times you can do that.
Is it like somewhat right analogy? I'm like drinking की replacement है मेरे लिए कि अपन को बैठ के करना है ना, अपन शक्ल नहीं देख सकते.
It is a new fun way to spend time with each other. Like the other ways are like you Netflix, but Netflix में you're not actually you're like, please be quiet, I'm watching the film, or you're playing FIFA. How do I meaningfully engage with you in a fun way? And that's what board games allow, because board games, when we define it, happen in 2 spaces. There's the board, so there's the fun spaces here. The second space is here, where you're talking to people, looking at each other's eye, negotiating with them, and they are just a catalyst for conversation. A
very close friend of mine got married recently, and मैं ऑलमोस्ट रोज उसकी फोटो देखता हूँ, वो अपने पार्टनर के साथ कटान खेलते हुए एक फोटो डालते हैं. मैंने कहा सिर्फ 2 लोग एक गेम खेल रहे हैं मेरे को, एंड ऑन पेपर तो ऐसा लगता है, ऑन इंस्टाग्राम तो ऐसा लगता है इट्स दी हेल्दीएस्ट रिलेशनशिप एवर. They don't need anything else. 2 people just playing Catan day in and day out. तो क्या आपको लगता है कलेश होता होगा उनका?
होता तो होगा, but actually you also want to release, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm your friend, but there are unsaid things I don't talk about, and मुझे थोड़ा गुस्सा निकालना है तुमसे.
Yeah.
तो कैसे निकालूं? तो एक also Indians love aggressive games, is what I've noticed. I don't think there's anyone in India who has played games with more people than I have, because just playing this game I've played board games with a few thousand Indians.
I think close competitor would be Chaitanya Tamhane. He has a
my job is like playing games with new people every day, right? Chaitanya has his own knit group where he plays his detective games with. And I've realized that we just love competitive games.
Yeah.
We just love winning. We just love... And then when the game ends, it's all calm again. So it's like a release for our emotions, and that I think really, really works.
Which was the first ever board game that you played in your life?
Wow, that name is difficult. Must have been Scrabble. When I was like 5 years old or something. I barely knew words. I barely knew the alphabet. Cat, dog, aata tha bas. And my family didn't go easy on me, because they were playing. My mom, dad, my brother, they were older. They were playing. And they were playing how they would normally play with each other.
Yeah.
And here I am, an imbecile, quite literally, not knowing what I'm doing, and feeling that competitive fire in me, saying, okay, I want to win this game.
Right.
But recently I just counted how many games I had played before the age of 12, 32 board games, including your Ludo and Stakes Ladders and all of that. There were so many games that you would find pirated copies of in India, from Scotland Yard to Game of Life to... There was this weird game, and if someone knows the name of this game, it was I can't find it on BG or anywhere. It was about firefighters rescuing cats from fires.
Oh, wow.
I played this when I was 7 years old. I don't know what that game is. So if anyone knows the game, please let me know.
आपने Scrabbles mention किया, and interestingly, when I was in 11th standard, my mom, she has a weak heart, like heart patient है वो. तो तब वही था कि डॉक्टर कहते थे कि like just keep doing activities. तो तब उन्होंने Scrabbles खेलना चालू किया. That was one thing that brought us together. उसके बाद when I wasn't there, when I would travel, she would play Razzle. Razzle is a game जो like word making का ही है. Then she would play that on her like phone. Then right now also the Wordle is there. So first I want to talk about these games where you have to make वर्ड्स. लाइक आपको क्या लगता है, लाइक अगर हम पूरी ह्यूमैनिटी का लैंडस्केप पकड़ें तो क्रॉसवर्ड कितनी लोगों की लाइफ में एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है?
फर्स्टली मॉडर्न बोर्ड गेम्स, even though it's a growing industry, huge numbers. India में again, you know how the Indian demographics that we were talking about last 10 years were entirely wrong. The number of people who actually pay for leisure is very small. I have seen a lot of people in Hindi, in Marathi, engage in crosswords, which is great. But I think the number is very, very small. I think the ability to play with words, to play with literacy is a very privileged activity at this point in India. If you ask me, Tash कितने लोग खेलते हैं इंडिया में? Non-gambling Tash, the number is much more than Scrabble. Much more than any word game. I think my favorite word game is this word game we play incessantly at work called Contact. Have you played it?
Yeah. With board and without board, like दोनों
हम ऐसे ही बैठे 10 लोग 12 लोग कॉन्टैक्ट शुरू ही होता है हमेशा. It's become a meme at this point कि यार यहाँ जाओगे तो कॉन्टैक्ट खेलेंगे ये लोग.
आप लोग विदाउट द बोर्ड खेलते हो ना?
कॉन्टैक्ट बोर्ड भी है.
हाँ, वो बोर्ड, उसका बोर्ड भी आता है.
I did not know that.
So ये हमने वर्ड्स वाले कुछ गेम्स की बात करी. Then ये नंबर्स वाले हैं. Like then there is like Sudoku is there, Minesweeper is there.
Which I would put more in the puzzle category, because you're not playing against or with someone.
So puzzle is not a game.
These are semantic definitions. Someone would call a puzzle a game. I would call a puzzle a separate thing. Puzzle is a problem which has a definitive right answer.
Interesting.
A game is a multiplayer activity or a multi-agent activity. It doesn't have to be a player. It can be you are playing against the board. You are playing against the big boss in Elden Ring. With multiple possible decision trees and possible ideas that you can explore. So that's how I would change the definition between puzzle and game.
Got it. And मेरे को शासन के बारे में थोड़ी और बात करनी है. How has it like changed your life? मेरे को हर जने की लाइफ में एक BC to AD event आता है. So I'm assuming शासन was the BC to AD event of your life.
One of the three, I would say. But let's talk about that. I started gaming very young. There was this Atari console that my father had borrowed from his colleague in 93. It was the first console I ever played on. I don't remember the game's name, but basically it was a brick baker game where you have bricks coming from top, like an Arcanine or whatever, or Space Invaders, but you don't fire bullets at it. You are two kids sitting on a seesaw, each one jumping up and down to hit the bricks. That was the first game I played when I was 3 years old, and I've been gaming since. When you ask people what's your primary medium, some would say reading, some would say watching films. For me, my primary medium of consumption has always been games.
Wow.
On the PS1 alone, तो ये ना 35 रुपये की सीडी आती थी पायरेटेड. इंडिया में ओरिजिनल सीडी मिलती नहीं थी, ना अफोर्ड कर पाते थे. तो 35 रुपये की सीडी कर करके मैंने और मेरे भाई ने 4 साल में कुछ 450 गेम कंप्लीट किए थे. पॉकेट मनी बचा के we just buy PS series to a point where we were like not buying games that we wanted to buy. We were buying games that we didn't have anymore. Like, oh, ये सब खेल चुके हैं, यही बाकी है. And we were Japanese games in Japanese. But the ambition with my life has always been how do I tell stories of impact, stories that really matter to me, to the most people possible. The idea was कि बचपन में experiment करते हैं. Let's do what we really want to do without the pressures of economics, without the pressures of scale. And that's when I started working with Anand. We made Ship of Theseus. I was on set with him when he was directing Tumbad. That whole thing happened. An Insignificant Man, while we watched, I had the privilege of working with these people. और फिर जब An Insignificant Man के बाद एक conversation शुरू हुआ कि फिल्म तो खत्म हो गई है, बट फिल्म तो 4 साल में बनाई है हमने, और 4 साल में बहुत सीखे हैं. We learned a lot about politics, how parties work. Now, how do we keep having this conversation constructively? Also, note this is 2018, the year before elections. Again, so politics is again on everyone's mind. What's happening with the nation? What's happening with the politics of the nation? So, like, okay, what do we do? So we said, okay, let's make something interactive. We want people to talk to each other. So we sat down in the room and we were like, okay, interactive. So like a video game, but we were like, if talking about politics digitally solved problems, Twitter would be heaven. But that's not what happens.
Very interesting.
So we said, okay, let's make a board game. I was already a board gamer. By that I mean I was playing post-Catan modern board games. और 15-20 खेल चुका था मैं, which I really loved. Everything from Splendor to Lords to slightly heavier ones like Scythe. Like, okay, let's make a board game. And literally in a week, we put the blueprint down of what SHASN would be. It was supposed to be an add-on to the AIM की DVD.
What is
DVD के पीछे एक छोटा सा गेम जाएगा.
Oh.
And 2 weeks later, when Anand and I sit down and we are like, यार वो DVD भूल जाते. We have something else on our hands. And while the game was ready in most forms in June, July of 2018, we launched it a year later because we were figuring out the industry, manufacturing कैसे होती है, shipping कैसे होती है, how do you run a successful Kickstarter, all of that. That took us a year to figure out.
What was the launch date of SHASN?
So the Kickstarter launched on July something of 2019. But then in the Kickstarter, we got a little ambitious. We said, एक कैंपेन नहीं करते हैं, 5 कैंपेन करते हैं, 4 गेम मोड करते हैं. All of that happened, the pandemic happened, everything happened, and we shipped the game for the first time in 2021 March. And since then, it has been selling more and more copies month on month. It also taught us one very important thing as a studio. It taught us how to decouple ourselves from distribution networks that have gatekeepers.
Crazy.
आज की तारीख में अगर आपको, if you want to make a film in India, you have only a few options. You go to one of the few producers, or you make something independent that is very difficult to make, and kudos to all the filmmakers who are able to pull it off. Or you go to OTT platform. And basically your entire career depends on how well you're able to convince these people. And that is usually an uphill battle. Because very rarely are executives creators themselves. So they don't have the lens that a creator would have. Now, how do you sidestep that? And we have been doing experiments with that. Ship of Theseus was open sourced. Ship of Theseus was given out for free to the audiences. An Insignificant Man was crowdfunded. But this became the first D2C culture product that we made. We are culture creators fundamentally. And culture creators require pipelines to put the culture out there. We sidestepped all the pipeline and went straight to the consumer. We were able to raise $1 million from crowdfunding without anyone's assistance or dependence.
Wow.
And now that changed what we are thinking of as a studio and our studio ethos. Now when you're writing books, when you're making films, when you're making more games, when you're making video games, the question is always, okay, we don't need anyone. We don't have a dependency कि यार ये exec को convince करना पड़ेगा या ये distributor convince करना पड़ेगा या ये actor को convince करना पड़ेगा. We are like, we'll make it. There are enough people out there who will support our endeavors and consumers, and not as donation, not as something that they're giving us, as a fair exchange.
Right.
We'll put a price on a product and people will buy it. SHASN, when it launched, I remember having a conversation with Anand and he was like, how much are you pricing it at? I said, 90 plus shipping dollars. He's like, are you crazy? I'm like, nahi, ho jayega. So the first box of SHASN, the big black and silver box, in 2019, as a first time creator, we sold 600,000 worth of goods at $100 per unit. And people bought it. So now I have more confidence. When we're launching books this year, we're launching graphic novels, anthologies, more board games, and we know the audience will support us and we don't need anything else. So that was a huge moment for me. As you say, it was a
BC to AD
event. I'm like, oh, I can productize culture. Otherwise, you make a film, it goes in theaters for 2 weeks and then everyone forgets about it. It's FMCG.
Yeah. Basically, हर जने की लाइफ में एक मोमेंट आता है जहाँ पे दे रियलाइज कि हमें सर्विसेज वाला गेम नहीं खेलना है, हमें प्रोडक्ट्स वाला खेलना है. फिल्म एट द एंड ऑफ द डे है तो सर्विस ही, और प्रोडक्ट तो ये वही है ना. नाउ यू आर मेकिंग मनी व्हाइल यू आर asleep. So that like changes everything.
Quite literally making. I wake up in the morning and say, last night Shopify कितना बिका, Amazon में कितना बिका, okay done.
ये हमने भी मेंबरशिप के साथ like figure out किया था कि I tell सौरभ sometimes, who is my co-founder, कि every time my phone पे notification आती है we are earning money. ये तो कोई और नहीं चीज कर रही. No, nothing else is doing.
फिल्में नहीं कर पाती है.
ये फिल्में भी नहीं कर पाती है.
और इंडिया में एक और प्रॉब्लम हुआ है. We went from the most IP rich country in the world, and by IP I'm using the word IP loosely. We inherited the most number of stories, the most unique, the deepest stories from our ancestors. But we have been, and I'm going to be very blunt and very upfront about it, we have been entirely unable to create any modern IPs. Name any modern Indian IP. By modern, I mean post-independence. And by IP, I mean something, intellectual property that is productizable, that can keep selling itself, that is transferable from one module to another.
जैसे Marvel is an IP but वो outside of India होगा.
Indian IP है ही नहीं. क्यों नहीं है? Why 1.5 billion people been unable to make a IP worthwhile that travels the world?
And you're talking about across
media formats.
हाँ.
Across media formats. There's not one. There are books.
We don't have our Harry Potters. We don't have our Friends.
We have Arundhati Roy's and our Salman Rushdis, but we don't have Harry Potters. We have literary fiction. We have Kiran Desai doing great. We don't have our Lord of the Rings. We don't have our films that will just demand attention from the audience worldwide. So we haven't been able to productize our culture. FMCG business में ही है हम.
और जो लोग IP बनाने की कोशिश भी कर रहे हैं उनका फर्स्ट हैंड पे ही प्रोडक्ट इतना अच्छा नहीं था. मेरे को ये वो एवेटार सिंड्रोम लगता है. वो बनाए जा रहे हैं एवेटार. भाई मैं तो इन्वेस्टेड ही नहीं हूँ यार एवेटार में. उन्होंने अपने 10 साल के लिए बोल दिया वो अगले 10 साल एवेटार ही बनाएंगे.
20 साल का प्रोजेक्ट है वो भाई.
But
like for the next film we met the production designer and he's like, I love your project, I want to do it. But I am not free for 10 more years. So can you wait for 10 more years? We're like, we'll see you after 10 years. We're hiring someone else.
Yeah, this is such a... ये song, I'm just like picking up every industry and thinking about it. Why do we not
Indian
have...
music industry. Okay, it's basically people being penny wise, pound foolish. The music labels in India, until recently, till the international competition happened and independent distribution became a thing, the music labels wanted to own everything. The song, no one got royalties. Now suddenly you have turned a singer from an artist to work for hire. वो क्यों आपकी बैटिंग करेगा? Why will they put 110% in?
Right.
क्योंकि 90% पे काम चल रहा है.
Right.
There is no royalty structure because जो 10% देना पड़ता है रॉयल्टी में वो आपने होल्ड बैक कर लिया.
ये अभी भी नहीं है.
अभी भी I think very few labels
Spotify वगैरह थोड़ा बहुत कर रहे हैं but वो भी कम करते हैं.
To independence, but if you go to a big label, erstwhile label, an old Indian label, they will not. If you have reached the top of your game, they give you royalty. Royalty should be the norm. Right. The same applies to filmmakers. You see actors and filmmakers internationally receiving residuals and buying houses from them 20 years later. Friends की पूरी कास्ट residuals पे जिंदगी चला रही है अपनी. They don't need to work a single day. India में नहीं होगा वो. So what you're doing is you're turning artists from people whose life depends on this.
Yeah.
to just work for hire.
I think we did come very close to having an IP in the world of TV show. CID. CID is
Who owns it? क्या होगा उसका? अगला क्या है? What is the format?
KID. I don't know. Like
If you look at, I don't know, American equivalent NCIS, उनके 12 शो बन रहे हैं. Miami, New York, Florida सब बन रहा है उनका.
हाँ.
There's no CID adventures of the doctor, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Salunke.
Adventure of Salunke happening, right? Animated series.
Yeah, man. And yeah, we are just talking about it. I don't know how much you follow Mukesh Khanna. Shaktiman.
We have to take ourselves seriously and really aspire to be better than everyone else in the world. Xerox is not what will... You're on the world stage, the same child is now consuming Marvel and your work.
Yeah,
Why will they consume your work?
Absolutely.
क्योंकि सेम भाव में मिल रहा है आपको.
सेम भाव में मिल रहा है.
Avengers is coming here and making hundreds of crores, and we only make hundreds of crores when we do something kitsch outside. वो भी नहीं होता है. We make 20 crores, we get one nomination, and we are like, यार, India has arrived. No, we haven't. Korea has arrived. In 1960, Korea was nothing. It had a per capita GDP less than India, and now they're a cultural powerhouse. K-pop, video games, everything, right?
Yeah.
PUBG is made by, I think, a Britisher, but was owned by a Korean company.
Oh.
Where's that Indian video game? Where's that Indian film series that everyone's watching? Where's the Indian board game? नहीं है.
एंड मेरे को याद है जब हमारी उस दिन पार्टी में बात हुई थी, यू टोल्ड मी कि शासन जो मोस्टली लोग खरीदते हैं इंडिया के बाहर इसकी सेल्स इंडिया से ज़्यादा है.
So when I launched the product, I raised $600,000 from Kickstarter and Backpocket combined.
ठीक है.
In the first 35 days. And this is without any marketing spend, without anything. Just ये प्रोडक्ट बनाया है, ये मैसेजिंग है हमारी, प्लीज देख लो. Of that, 93%, and we did the math, was not from India and not from Indian diaspora. So it wasn't Mukesh and Sita from the US buying it. It was white people buying it. Then we caught on in India much later, to a point where right now, thankfully, and just the effort of Vinay, Anand, everyone else in the team, we have become the best-selling tabletop game out of India ever. I mean, non-children's and adult as a grown-ups toy. वो adult toys भी एक term है यार, मतलब it's a toy for grown-ups, not adult toy.
Pre-शासन tabletop games में like
India में there are great game designers doing a lot of great work, but support ही नहीं है. कैसे करोगे? I had the backing of really, really kind, wise and smart people like Vinay and Khushbu and Anand, who said, "Yaar, you want to do this? Let's make it happen." They founded a company in the US for me to be able to launch a Kickstarter. India से Kickstarter allowed नहीं है launch करना, क्योंकि Indian government में crowdfunding के laws नहीं है अभी तक.
But वो keto.org और ये सब
वो आप डोनेशन दे रहे हो, प्रोडक्ट नहीं है.
अच्छा.
ये साल मैं पैसा उठाऊंगा, 2 साल बाद GST दूंगा.
यार ये तो
Now there are great Indian game designers. I'm on groups with them and they're making amazing games. But the number of hoops they have to jump through to be able to monetize the product internationally is too high for most people to be able to do it. And at the same time, the attitude कि India के लिए अच्छा है is the biggest cancer we have.
बहुत प्यारी लाइन है. Yeah, this is like वो Paul Schrader का एक quote है ना, you can't compete with mediocrity. एंड अभी मैंने ल्यूका जो चैलेंजेस के डायरेक्टर उन्होंने भी कहीं बोला था कि यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड मेडियोक्रिटी इज मोस्टली द वे ऑफ लाइफ फॉर एवरीवन. पीपल आर ओके कि हाँ सही बढ़िया चल रहा है इंडिया में.
माय थिंग इज यार दिस द नो इफ दैट इज द फाइट यू आर इन, आई हैव नो प्रॉब्लम विद यू डूइंग only what you want to do and just setting a standard for yourself and meeting that standard. Not everyone has to aspire to make the best craft or make the most money or whatever your benchmark is. Your benchmark can be, I want to live the happy life. I'm great with that. But when you are trying, when you are going out there, when you are claiming to be good business people,
right,
which is what in the Indian film industry claims to be, के धंधे के लिए अच्छा है, formula films. Indian films don't know how to make money. Indian films are fundamentally a loss-making industry because you need to be able to experiment, you need to be able to invest.
Yeah.
The first thing we need to invest is in writers.
Yeah.
And stop telling writers कि चलेगा नहीं ये, क्योंकि आपको नहीं पता है क्या चलने वाला है.
Right.
Your box office record shows me that you have no idea what's going to work. Why is it that the biggest television production company in the country, publicly traded, is only worth 600 crores? Now 600 crores is a lot of money, but not for someone who's been dominating the industry for 30 years. Where is our billion-dollar media company? Why is it that Disney exits India thrice?
वो 3 बार छोड़ चुकी है.
हाँ यार. डिज्नी था
वापस क्यों आते हैं वो?
क्योंकि इंडिया में ऑडियंस है, मार्केट है, सब कुछ है.
इस बार नए मैनेजर्स, नए एग्जेक्स लेके आते हैं. इस बार
नया CEO आएगा, वो बोलेगा इंडिया ट्राई करते हैं वापस. If I deliver India to my shareholders.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Red Note opened up recently.
Okay.
Red Note is like TikTok, but China first. So it's in Chinese also, the app. And for the first time, the wall was broken down between China and the rest of the world. The rest of the world can see what's happening in China and vice versa. I've been seeing the art from China. If you haven't, go there and just type concept art, any kind of, whatever art you are into, your jaw will drop. India छोड़ अमेरिका पीछे उनके.
Yeah.
And just the quality of art.
Yeah.
That is what we need to do. That's what the government needs to do. That's what the industry needs to do. Lots of angst. Let's talk about more fun stuff now.
I also want to talk about is chess को आप क्या बोलोगे? Chess is a board game, right? Like it's
Chess is fundamentally a board game, yes.
But I'm also loving what's happening in the realm of chess because now Kukesh has won.
Yes.
And Abhi Magnus and like Gotham had said in an interview, now we need to be ready to triple our subscribers in a year क्योंकि अब पूरी Indian audience आके देखेगी.
Exactly.
तो the revolution जो chess की चली रही है COVID से, now it is going to go to another level
Yes.
altogether.
Yes.
So how do you feel about chess? Do you play it yourself? And how excited are you about the chess industry? And will it also cascade into like bringing in more like people and eyeballs for the board game industry altogether?
I don't know about the board game industry, but there's a cultural shift that chess will bring to India, which I'm very happy about.
Okay.
The most played game in the pandemic in India was Ludo. One of the apps clocked 1 billion downloads, if I'm not wrong. That's a ridiculous number, 1 billion downloads. But you have to understand what the ethos of each game is. The ethos of chess is thinking things through, is talking forward, is strategizing, is Therao and strategy. And that is a wonderful thing for people to aspire to.
Yeah, man.
It is wonderful for people to say, you know what, I aspire that my children or children aspiring, I aspire to be great at being able to think things through and not taking hasty decisions. I aspire to being able to think 4 steps ahead. That is a great ethos for a country to have. But you need to treat a sport as that. You need to treat a sport as a means to a worldview as opposed to the end itself. The idea is what lifestyle changes can chess bring to us as opposed to trophy eye ke nahi aayi. Finally, India we are talking about 2 sports instead of 1 sport now. That people are playing. Cricket के साथ chess भी आ गया.
Chess के लिए मैं उस sense में excited हूँ, but I also know शासन के आप like बहुत सारी community like matches and games कराते हो. Like in Mumbai I have heard like होता है. तो this is basically held by शासन की team. Like tell me a little about it.
So we're doing culture building. Fundamentally what we're doing is building the tabletop culture in India.
Lovely.
This happened in 3 stages. 1, making games for India for the world at large. Making games in India for the Indian gamers. If I tell people, do you play board games? More often than not, it's Scrabble, Monopoly, Ludo, Snakes and Ladders. The idea that board games can be for grown-ups, the idea that you can have a meaningful time with board games is alien to most Indians. In the last few years, a few 100,000 people have changed their mind and conservatively thanks to SHASN. And that's just the beginning. But वो culture build करने के लिए बहुत investment लगा है. We organize events ourselves. We tie up with bars and restaurants for them to organize events. We do play-alongs where someone from the team flies to cities, teaches games over there. It's a lot of work. We have tournaments.
Yeah.
Someone won the tournament. Bangalore won the national tournament 3 times in a row. And this time prize money was 1 lakh rupees.
What's your win-loss ratio in SHASN when you play yourself?
See, if a 4-player game, if you're above 25%, you're doing good. Because roll of dice, there's 1/4 chance of you winning. मेरा initially 30 के आसपास चल रहा था, अब 12 पे चल रहा है approximately, I would say, क्योंकि मैं टेबल बैठता हूँ and the whole table है, इसको हराना है.
Oh man.
So yeah, I'm public enemy number 1 in SHASN.
Yeah man, I'm sure. क्योंकि हाँ, बिकॉज आपके पास ज़्यादा टाइम होता तो पहले ये भी प्लान चल रहा था कि यहाँ पे हम लोग एक शासन का मैच करेंगे. यही होता कि इसको पकड़ो भाई,
इसको जीतने नहीं देना है. ये जो भी बोल रहा है झूठ बोल रहा है इससे.
एंड लाइक ये तो वही है ना, मतलब इट्स अ बैच पीपल के लिए कि हमने वो होता है ना फिल्मों में फाइनली आप क्रिएटर से मिलते हो कि वो फाइनल बॉस, यू आर द फाइनल बॉस. आई
एम आल्सो नॉट द बेस्ट प्लेयर. आई नो पीपल हु आर बेटर प्लेयर्स.
What's your weakness in SHASN? Like
I am obviously aggressive. I will sit down with aggression in my mind. Like आज तो मैं जीतने बैठा हूँ. But I've seen players who just stay invisible till the last turn.
वो 4 वाले क्या बोलते हैं उन्हें, वो इकट्ठे करते रहते हैं. Which are the cards?
Depending on what version you have, the name has changed from trifecta to Vikas model to 4 pillars.
Vikas model.
Now it's called 4 pillars because my lawyers were like, don't do that.
And like आप लोग अभी भी do you play it in like studio, like जो आप लोगों का Memesys का studio है?
Very regularly. So whenever someone new comes on board, they play a game of SHASN. We keep trying. There are new expansions coming out, new game modes coming out constantly. तो चल रहा है. So many times it's like 4 लोग लैपटॉप पे काम कर रहे हैं and we're like, okay, टक तेरी बारी.
हाँ.
Constantly.
वो जो एक लड़की का वीडियो है ना जहाँ पे वो समझाती है निधि का, वो जो बहुत पुराना है, वो जो ऐसे पटक भी देती है गेम बीच में. Is that the only explainer video कि मैं दिखाता हूँ सब कुछ?
No, now it's since last year and a half. What happened was that one had the premium edition. हाँ. And now we have this edition which doesn't have the wooden pegs.
क्या हमारे पास प्रीमियम नहीं है? क्या चल रहा है?
प्रीमियम आउट ऑफ स्टॉक है. वो सिर्फ किकस्टार्टर में मिलता है, नहीं तो नहीं मिलता है वो.
अच्छा.
हाँ.
तो हमारे पास मतलब.
That's one thing. Okay guys, when I launch a game on Kickstarter, buy it on Kickstarter. Then don't tell me कि यार प्रीमियम वाला नहीं मिला. It's very expensive to make. I can only make limited copies of that, and I don't make profits on those. So I don't even cover costs on those. Then people are confused. Oh no, I saw that video, but you shipped me this product. I'm like, the website had this image. I don't know why you're confused. So we said, okay, we put that video as unlisted, and we made a new one when I'm explaining the game.
इसमें एक बहुत अच्छा revenue model वो भी है ना कि the deck of cards do you have जहाँ पे
keep selling more and more and more.
You can like always keep up with coming up.
Game as a service.
Game as a service. वो कितना अभी तक जब से शासन आया आपने वो deck of क्या बोलते हैं उसे? Sorry, I'm bad with names.
Campaigns.
Campaigns. हाँ, so how many campaigns have you released ever since शासन has come out?
Just शासन की 5 campaigns हैं, 2 और ये साल लॉन्च हो रही है. If you count आज़ादी 15 campaigns है total. अच्छा, तो जैसे if I have 1 इसके 4 और हैं, तो इसी में मैं ट्रम्प वगैरह वाले वर्जन. So there's India.
हाँ.
There's US.
Okay.
So India 2019-20, US 2019-20, India 22-23, US 22-23. So the years changed. Then we have Future of Humanity 2040. Contrasting with the first democracy, Rome 40 BCE. So 20-80 years apart. And then we have Brexit. We're launching 2 more this year, which I'm not announcing yet because my team will kill me. But yeah.
How old are you, Zain?
I'm 34.
Age of Empires खेलते थे ना?
बचपन में बहुत खेलता था यार.
हाँ. वहाँ पे भी like it must have been like a seed कि यार ये because
I still play Age of Mythologies. I was playing Age of Mythology last night.
And there is this one version of Age of Empires that I love. It's the Rise of Rome.
That's what all of us played क्योंकि pirated वही मिलता था 90s में.
आपको पता है अभी भी मेरी जो सेव स्पेस है वो है उसका साउंड ट्रैक. अभी भी जाके मैं बस वो चला रहा.
If you had a PC from 98 to 2002, you had Age of Empires Rise of Rome on your PC installed. क्योंकि you would go to the PC वाला saying भैया गेम डाल के दो, and he would put Age of Empires and Road Rush.
And so you have played Road Rush, Virtual Cop, वो सारा.
The number of unique games so far, the number is ballpark around 6,000 to 8,000 that I've played.
You have played 8,000.
6,000 to 8,000 games. मैं Steam पे ही कुछ 3-4 हजार गेम्स है जिसमें से मैंने 1,500 खेल लिए.
You know, so as a founder, one of the people who inspires me the most, like some of the founders I look up to is Gabe Newell.
Of course, Gabe.
Yeah, मैं बहुत ज़्यादा अभी उनकी जो हाफ लाइफ की दोनों डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज आई, I don't know if you have seen them.
I haven't seen those, no.
But I would highly recommend 25th anniversary की जो हाफ लाइफ 1 और 2 की उन्होंने रिलीज किया. He has talked about कि क्यों नहीं आया हाफ लाइफ 3. Like आपको पता ही है पूरा एक वो जनरेशनल की सब वेट कर रहे हैं हाफ लाइफ 3 आएगा. And the way he has talked about it, he takes the sole responsibility because Valve doesn't think of itself, Valve or Valve, like they don't think of themselves as a gaming company, they think of themselves as an innovation company. कि जब तक वो टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं आएगी तो हम क्या करेंगे. मतलब we always want to.
What new do we do? We make Half-Life 2 जैसा ही होगा या कुछ. There's no major shift.
तुम लोगों के लिए कर देंगे बट हमें किक नहीं मिलेगी.
VR में किया था ना Alex, which was like a small experiment.
Yeah, but it was a great experiment.
What's the People Make Games documentary about Half-Life?
क्या है ये, मेरे को नाम बताओ.
People Make Games.
Okay.
Is a YouTube channel which is gaming journalism.
Okay.
That and No Clip, a very good gaming journalism.
Okay.
No Clip in I think No Clip ने शायद की है कि नहीं की है, but People Make Games ने अच्छी Valve पे एक 40 मिनट का किया है. Watch that. A different perspective on Valve. It's fat organization, how it's both good and bad.
इनकी एक employee playbook है जो मैंने print out निकलवाया हुआ है, which is kind of a model I follow in Chalchitra also. कि like people how they can do whatever they want वाला. It's just like a company which keeps me excited about.
You know something that Valve has done that has made them the most money, which is something that is very difficult for a big company to do, but Valve has still done. Because when you're a big company, you are beholden to your shareholders, whether they are private or public, which means you can't experiment. Because rule number 1 of experiment is you might fail. If you're not good, if chances of failure are low, it's not an experiment. It's an execution. It's a surety. With games, experimentation is important. What is common between Counter-Strike, Fortnite, PUBG, Dota, League of Legends, Minecraft? What is common about all of them? They're the biggest games in the world, right?
Multiplayer?
Yes, they're multiplayer, but something else. Something more fundamental. They're all mods for other games. None of those games, and Fortnite is a slight exception over there, and I'll get to that in a bit. The code game designers, none of them made their own games. They were modifying other games. Valve did not make Counter-Strike.
Yes, people don't know that.
I remember when I was 10 years old, we would launch hl.exe, open the console, and change the game mode to Counter-Strike.
Oh dude.
This is before 1.5. This is when Counter-Strike was just an idea.
Yes.
उसके बाद 1.6 आया, उसके बाद
Deleted scenes एक बार
Orange Box बाद में आया.
Yeah, Orange Box आया.
वो सब बाद में आया. And that's fundamental. That they were mods. Dota, I was playing in 2005. Dota was a mod on Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne. Then people took those mods, and one person named IceFrog, or multiple people, but IceFrog was the face, turned Dota into Dota All-Stars. They took the best from all the Dotas that were there. Now, a few million people worldwide were playing the game that no one was responsible for. It was one guy sitting at home making a game in his free time.
Yeah.
To play the game, we had to first get Frozen Throne. Go to icefrog.com or W3Maps, Warcraft3Maps.com and download the thing, put it in the right folder and launch it. But millions of us were playing it, and Blizzard, which owned Warcraft, was sleeping at the wheel. Valve swooped in both Counter-Strike and in Dota's time, took that developer, brought them in-house and made them make the game actually. That is what happened. The game was not invented by a studio. The game was not invented by an exec.
Yeah.
Or even a game designer on hire. It was invented by people making what they want to do.
Yeah.
I forgot the name on which Minecraft was a mod of. It was the initial idea, but then it was modded on some other game that died. Another game died and became open source. This guy took the open source and made a game on top of it. PUBG, Brendan Green, or Player Unknown as he was known, was making a mod for Arma 3. And then Bluehole Interactive was like, can you make the same thing for us? They hired him, and then they got bought over by Krafton and eventually Tencent. But it was made by one person just wanting to build what they want to build, and that's what you need to do. You need to experiment. You need to allow game designers to experiment. I am certain that the first great Indian game will come out only after the first great Indian mod for a game comes out.
Wow.
Because that's when we are incentivizing game creators and not studio heads.
Yeah.
You have studio heads saying, yeah, we'll make a PUBG of India, we'll make a Hearthstone of India. And they're getting funded. But I'll be surprised if any of them do well. Yeah. I want them to do well, I want Indian gaming to succeed, but I think they're doing the wrong way because the platform, the competition is global. If you make a PUBG copy, people would rather play PUBG.
Right.
If you make a Hearthstone copy, people would rather play Hearthstone.
Right.
Because if I'm going to buy items in these games, am I going to buy items in a game that is Indian and local? Or something that I know will last forever. A new company I would trust lesser. It's just not their fault. It's how the consumer mind thinks.
Do you have the ambitions of making like a video game yourself?
We are already working on it.
Lovely.
I'll talk about it at length later with Anand, because Anand and I are co-authoring something together called Maya. We have a novel coming out, we have board games, we have video games, we have films, we have everything coming out from the same mythology that we've built from scratch. But I'll talk about that with you some other day when we have that platform and my co-authors there too. Share the stage.
What do you think of these decks? Like this is Valve का जो like I think one of the smartest moves they did was कि जो आप कह रहे थे ना स्टार्टिंग में दिक्कत आती है या तो आप एग्जैक्ट के पीछे ही भागते रहते हो. उन्होंने खुद का स्टीम बना दिया, अब खुद का स्टीम डेक बना दिया. एंड टू एंड एवरीथिंग इज देयर ओन. इजंट इट ब्यूटीफुल? पूरा का पूरा इकोसिस्टम उनका है, लाइक इन देयर ओन वर्जन. मतलब वो एप्पल ही है यार इन सम वेज. सो ये जैसे निंटेंडो का है, लाइक पीपल.
बट निंटेंडो का फिलॉसफी अलग है. निंटेंडो की फिलॉसफी है वॉल्ड गार्डन.
Okay, tell me more about it.
Apple, which is कि Nintendo की मशीन पे कुछ और नहीं चलेगा.
हाँ.
Nintendo games सिर्फ उसकी मशीन पे चलेगी.
हाँ.
Valve is a more Windows approach.
हाँ.
Not an Apple approach. They're like यार तेरे पास जो भी मशीन है, put Steam in.
हाँ.
Install our games, play them.
Right.
You have any game in the world, put it. As long as it doesn't go against our guidelines of pornography and gambling and this and that. The only people who are allowed to have gambling games on Steam is Valve themselves through the loot boxes in
Right.
CSGO.
मैं अभी currently PS पे Hitman खेल रहा हूँ.
Hitman is my favorite game of all time. I've been playing since Hitman 2. Like I'm talking about
Silent Assassin. आप
yes.
Silent Assassin
contracts, blood money, absolution.
क्योंकि you guys did something which I always wanted to do. आप Jesper Kid को इंडिया ले आए यार.
Yes.
I remember. ये मेरी ड्रीम थी.
This is before Junkie XL blew up. This is before Mad Max because we were shooting Tumbad in 14-15. And on set, he was directing Tumbad. I was there with no job role, just experimenting. And I was that kid in the room like, ये करते क्या? And Anand used to humor me. And you know, when you launch Hitman, it starts with music by Jesper Kid. So the first time, the music director's name stays in your head. So like, Jesper Kid से बात करनी है क्या?
Crazy.
So I remember writing that email.
Let's talk a little about this Hitman because it's something which is a big part of my childhood, my present life. You know how I play the current PS5 Hitman series? मैं जाके उसमें म्यूजिक बंद करता हूँ, सिर्फ मेरे को SFX दो, मैं फ़ोन को एलेक्सा से कनेक्ट करता हूँ, उस पर मैं हिटमैन, ब्लड मनी और उसका म्यूजिक चलाता हूँ, मैं ओजी साउंड ट्रैक चलाता हूँ, देन आई प्ले द न्यू हिटमैन बिकॉज इसमें जेस्पर किड नहीं है. इट्स ग्रेट बट इट डजंट हैव जेस्पर किड.
बट द न्यू हिटमैन इज जस्ट सच अ ग्रेट गेम मैन. आई रिमेंबर प्लेइंग एंड हिटमैन का मेरा प्रॉब्लम इज आई ओनली प्ले इट ऑन लॉन्च डेज क्योंकि व्हेंस यू गेट स्टक लेटर द वॉक थ्रूज कम आउट. So I finished the game. I'm like, game's going to launch. I'm going to finish it this weekend.
Amazing.
और तभी क्या होता है ना? No, not many people have played it, so you also get to be on the leaderboards.
अच्छा.
हाँ, because like only a few thousand people have played it or whatever.
हाँ.
उसके बाद the speedrunners are min-maxing it and they're like doing it in 7 seconds. You know, Dubai level. हाँ. The shortest time is 7 seconds.
I just finished Hitman 1. अब मैं 2 और 3 खेलूँगा.
Dubai level जब आएगा 7 seconds is the record that I saw last.
How big a part of your life has been the leaderboards? For
very little. होता नहीं है. Like I'm not good enough to be basically honest. I'm not a gifted gamer. I'm a ardent gamer, but I'm not a gifted gamer.
So I like tells people कि this is like a theory I'm working on कि how gifting yourself a PS5 is the best thing you can do for male mental health. Because just like trying to write something about it because बचपन से ही मतलब it eventually becomes a safe space and like when जैसे मेरी टीम में भी होता है जब सब चले जाते हैं वो जो 1 घंटा मिलता है यार मैं you are just doing everything it's like directly making my mental health better. Imagine a gaming software जिसको लोग गालियाँ देते हैं कि game addiction वगैरह bro it's really it has more benefits.
So I almost every night midnight to 2 a.m. is gaming time. I enter my study, I turn a game on, I enter Discord to see if any of my friends are online. If they're not online, I play solo. And I just play games every night. It is a part of my self-care routine.
It's self-care, dude.
This is not founded in neuroscience yet, but the idea is the same way you need a gym.
Yes.
To work your body out. You need a gym to work your mind out and just release all the neurotransmitters, all the hormones that are being built up in your mind.
Yeah.
Your brain has been is ready to take on a lot of anxiety because the world are being involved in, you're either constantly hunting or being hunted. You had the anxiety of not finding food on a daily basis. Agriculture was not invented yet. So your brain is used to dealing with certain amount of anxiety every day. तो cortisol ready हो जाता है आपके लिए. But वो नहीं होगा, so you will start deploying the cortisol in other places and other things become anxious. So you need the release. When I come home, non-gamers ask me, so you must be playing something calming, right? I'm like, no, I play something absolutely anxiety-inducing to relax.
Beautiful.
And people are like, what? That makes no sense. That makes complete sense.
It makes complete sense.
I play the most anxiety-inducing games at night to relax.
Yeah.
I used to play FPSs, but I'm too old for FPSs now. Especially FPSs with low time to kill. You turn a corner and the 12-year-old has landed a headshot. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be reminded of how old I am.
एक बहुत मेरा ब्यूटीफुल डिस्कशन हुआ ज़ैन मेरे एक दोस्त के साथ. टेल मी व्हाट यू थिंक ऑफ इट. इट्स अबाउट डिफिकल्टी मोड्स. सो मैंने अभी 8-9 महीने पहले ही प्रॉपर PS5 गेमिंग चालू करी एंड एक जैसे अभी मैं लास्ट ऑफ अस खेल रहा हूँ एंड आई एम लाइक यार वो वाले जब क्रीचर आते हैं ना तो मैं थोड़ा वो हो जाता हूँ वगैरह. उसने कहा मैं तेरे को एक बहुत गेमिंग के बारे में क्रेजी चीज़ बताता हूँ. लोगों ने ना डिफिकल्टी मोड्स को एक ईगो थिंग बना दी है बट पीपल शुड स्टार्ट प्लेइंग ऑन ईजी मोर ऑफन देन लाइक दे थिंक. एंड ही टोल्ड मी कि गॉड ऑफ वॉर में तो जो मोड्स भी देखेगा डिफिकल्टी के उसके नाम ही इतने प्यारे हैं. इजी हटा ही दिया. इजी वर्ड उन्होंने टर्मिनोलॉजी से हटा दिया. जैसे स्टोरी मोड पहले आया था बट अब देयर इज अ ग्रेस मोड, देयर इज दीज मोड्स एंड आई एम लाइक
गॉड ऑफ वॉर लास्ट है.
हाँ तो यार तो मेरे को ये इतनी सही चीज लगी क्योंकि मेरा आई वॉन्ट टू प्ले टू फील काम. जैसे आप कह रहे हो ना कॉर्टिसोल जो आ गया इतना सारा लाइक उसको लाइक ठिकाने लगाने के लिए. So I'm like, अच्छा ये कर सकते हैं. You can play games on easy.
Two thoughts on this. The first thought is there's a game called Hades.
Okay.
Of course, you have heard of it or played it.
Heard it.
Hades is a roguelike. Basically, you're doing the same run again and again and again and again. You keep dying, you keep respawning, keep respawning. Usme there's a game mode called God mode. Now, God mode you would think is one of two things. Either it makes you super powerful or super difficult. It's neither. Every time you die, you become slightly powerful. So basically, the game gets easier little by little by little. तो आपको लगता भी नहीं है. The second thing is, gaming is the only art form which punishes you for not being good at it. If you don't understand the different notes in a song, the song doesn't stop playing.
Right.
You can still listen to the whole song. In a film, the film won't say कि अब तक समझा नहीं तो आगे का मत देखो.
Right.
You know, a novel won't say you can't read ahead if you haven't understood it.
Right.
A game is like, no, you can't go ahead if you can't play it. And that's inherent to gaming. So, but you can turn the difficulty down. You can.
Yeah. But it's such a big ego thing between people कि नहीं हम क्यों करेंगे?
But board games में एक advantage है कि board games में difficulty level is regulated by the people you're sitting with.
Right.
So you're not in cooperative games or games against the board, you are playing against the board. But I'm playing against you. So if we are all new gamers, we are all at equal difficulty level.
Yeah.
So it keeps getting better and better. So it self-regulates.
Yeah. You know जब अभी हमने रोहन जोशी के साथ एक एपिसोड किया था, उस एपिसोड की 1 मिलियन व्यूज वाली जो रील गई थी, इट वाज अबाउट हिम टॉकिंग अबाउट वेवलेंथ. दैट वन रील, द वे ही टॉक्ड अबाउट वेवलेंथ एंड एवरीवन वाज लाइक कब खेल सकते हैं, बिकॉज़ ही इज लाइक कब इस पे अपन करते हैं. सो
it was also Kickstarter.
Oh
yes, 2019 or 18 का Kickstarter.
अच्छा, it's that new?
Yeah. Wavelength is a very new game. I remember backing the Kickstarter. I remember getting the copy in the mail.
Yeah.
It's a very new game. It's a very fun game. It's a good icebreaker. It's a good way to just know people better.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
How much have you played Mafia?
So there are variations of social deduction games that I play.
Social what game?
Deduction.
क्या मतलब?
Social deduction. You deduce कि हम में चोर कौन है.
अच्छा, मतलब like refined versions of Killer Detective like.
हाँ, उसमें Secret Hitler is a major one. But the one I play a lot is called Avalon.
Okay.
The main difference is in Secret Hitler, in Mafia, in Killer, if you get killed in the beginning, the whole round you're sitting out. What we call player elimination, which I think is not good because 8 लोग बैठे हैं and at every round 12.5% people are not playing the game. So Avalon doesn't have player elimination.
Oh.
Yes, there's one more that's doing waves right now, which is called Blood on the Clock Tower. But for me, that is a little too open base for deduction to happen. Because two things happen in a social deduction game. There's deduction, but there's also storytelling that happens. नहीं, इसने ये ऐसे किया होगा, इसलिए ये हुआ. So you're making your own Knives Out. Or Agatha Christie novel. Or Murder on the Orient while you're sitting in the room. Which Blood on the Clock Tower does better, but doesn't do the gameplay part better in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Avalon does it just right.
मैं YouTube पे ढूंढ सकता हूँ ना इसको कैसे खेलते हैं वगैरह लगे.
मिल भी जाएगा कहीं ना कहीं. Yeah, variants मिल जाएगी. Or I might bring it to India. I'm talking to the publishers.
Oh, lovely. Among Us is basically Mafia on computer, right? It's just that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, Among Us for the first 2 years didn't have any audience.
It didn't?
It launched to almost no one playing it, and the pandemic it blew up.
जो मेरे को लगता है गेमिंग वर्ल्ड में दूर से जो मैंने रेवोल्यूशंस देखी हैं, जैसे GTA रेवोल्यूशन है, एक आई वांट टू टॉक अबाउट पोकेमॉन गो. लाइक तब क्या हो गया था दुनिया को, लेकिन व्हाट अगर आप लाइक एक थियोरेटिकल, अगर आप साइंटिस्ट के जैसे सोचे, व्हाई डू यू थिंक वर्ल्ड वेंट बैकशिट क्रेजी फॉर पोकेमॉन?
So Pokemon का precursor was a game called Ingress, if you remember.
Okay.
By Niantic, the same company.
Okay.
Two things happened. One, with Ingress they perfected the technology and they did the mapping, and because they were a Google company, they had all the Google Map data.
Yeah.
Which they again fed back into much later. We'll get to that. But the second thing that happened was, for our generation, Pokemon has been the integral IP. You either collected the cards, played the Game Boy game, or watched the anime. All three. For me, it was the first two. I collected the cards and I played the Game Boy game, starting from green to Sapphire. उसके बाद मुझसे नहीं हुआ. And suddenly it was like we had the spending power because we had turned 25. The technology had finally caught up.
Yeah.
To give us a new novel experience.
Yeah.
But I think Pokemon Go was a little lackluster on the depth, which is why it kind of died.
हाँ, एकदम से गायब हो गया था.
क्योंकि कुछ था नहीं करने को. If you remember playing the original Pokemon, you would find a Pokemon at level 5 and then grow it till level 99 and you would form a relationship with the Pokemon. Last Pokemon I played was Sword and Shield. So if I'm walking around with a level 50 Pokemon, the Pokemons I encounter will be level 45.
Wow.
Which I think is, I want to encounter level 5 child and take it, bring it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're taking the most fun part of Pokemon away from me.
Very interesting. हाँ, क्योंकि लोग ऐसे मेट्रो के नीचे बैठे रहते थे तब आए वगैरह, बट
पता क्या हुआ था, पब्लिक स्पेसेस इज व्हाट दे हैड केप्ट.
या
इंडिया में स्पेशली, आई डोंट नो अबाउट रेस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, बॉम्बे में द ओनली पब्लिक स्पेसेस वर बस स्टॉप्स और बस डेपोज और मंदिर्स. So suddenly mandirs and bus stops had become Pokestops or whatever gyms. And I would see a lot of people just standing around bus stops and mandirs. मैं क्या हो रहा है ये?
This is crazy. Are there any books or like resources like that people can get into to get deeper into the world of board games? कि अगर मेरे को कभी कुछ बनाना है, what literature can I read?
So I would talk about gaming in general, not just board games. GMTK, Game Maker's Toolkit, great resource, YouTube channel.
Achha, it's a YouTube channel.
Yes, I would recommend People Make Games, again very good. If you want, then there is GDC, which is Game Developers Conference. They have talks every year, which they put online for free. Great resource. For starters, you could go with Extra Credits ka gaming section.
Okay.
Which also is a very good primer into game design. And then study evolutionary biology and behavioral economics.
Beautiful.
That is the best way of designing games, because you're designing interactions.
Yeah.
Fundamentally. And no code tools or low code tools are so easy nowadays that you can use Unreal K blueprints as a way of coding in Unreal. You can just use blueprints to make your own platformer. So it's very simple, very straightforward.
How much test audience did you get for SHASN in the initial stages कि लोगों को बिठा के खिला रहे हो, notes बना रहे हैं?
In the first few months, 400 approximately.
Oh wow.
In the first year, 1200 approximately. Games, not people.
कितने 1200 games?
1200 games.
खेले गए थे when you were making notes की. And were people aware like you guys are?
Yeah, we are playtesting. Abhi right now, there's the next game that's launching called Macaraccoon. That game has playtests going on every weekend in a different city. We finished Bombay. Bangalore is happening right now as we speak. Pune is happening next week. Then Hyderabad, then Delhi. We go to cities, we get 100 people to come in, play the game. And it is just putting it on the thing, I have 100 slots for a playtest, show up. And people show up, and it's good.
Then also, for those of you who do not know, SHASN hai kya cheez?
So SHASN is a political strategy board game. And by board game, I mean, there's no app involved, there's nothing. It's a physical product board game where you are a politician fighting elections. Now, every turn you'll answer a policy question and you'll get resources. You use the resources to influence voters and win the game. But very often you realize that the resources you need don't align with what you think in the real world. So you start getting the politician's shoes and you start saying things that you do to win. And you see the slide between idealism and victory. And it's very interesting to see people grapple with that. And it's not an intellectual exercise. It's a fun exercise. You've played the game. It makes people jump with joy, laugh, cry, shout at each other. What's your experience been? What's the mood been when you play SHASN?
मेरा phone अभी use हो रहा है. I would have loved to show you some of them. मैं यहाँ पे play करूँगा. At this moment, like मेरे जो दो खास दोस्त हैं तैयब एंड सगे, बोला वो जेरीमैंडरिंग वगैरह जब चालू हो जाए, अबे जाबे ये तो रूल ही नहीं है. एंड शासन में बहुत बार होता है कि किस एक्सपीरियंस प्लेयर को कॉल करके पूछे कि ये सही है या नहीं.
You know what? Who gets the most calls? Me. Because I'm on the community and every weekend night, मुझे without fail 11 बजे phone calls आएंगे कि सुन, resolve this for us. And I've seen it's great to see people as young as 20 and as old as 60 play the game, fight with each other about politics and not politicians. Yeah. And that's what the game helps you to do. It's like House of Cards, but you are a character in it.
As we come towards the end of the discussion, हम एक बार वापस वीडियो गेम्स पे आते हैं. आई वॉन्ट टू नो अबाउट सम ऑफ योर फेवरेट वीडियो गेम्स, सो गिव अस अ फ्यू recommendations, particularly in regard to PlayStation. Let's start with PlayStation.
Honestly, I'm not a console person. I have had the PS1, the PS2 and the PS5, but I just play games wherever I can find them.
So then let's do in general
across,
like
yes.
Yeah, all
so
across.
I'll give you my greatest of all times. Hitman is definitely one of my greatest of all times. I love that game. I've been grinding that game since I was 10, 12, whatever, right? Splinter Cell what used to be amazing. The co-op experience I've had with Splinter Cell has been some of the best co-op experiences I've had. But the most exciting cooperative experience ever in the history of gaming, in my opinion, is Overcooked. A bunch of you must have played it. If you haven't, play it with 4 people. Not with 2 people, but with 4 people. It might seem like ये क्या cutish cooking game है, but it is the most intense experience you will have.
Okay.
It is just running a kitchen like clockwork.
Oh yes.
You have to play that game 4-player if you haven't already.
Is it the game जिसको couples game भी बोला जाता है क्या?
Couples भी खेलते हैं. Couples also play It Takes Two, Unravel, whatever. But this one is just amazing. Another fun party game I've been playing of late at night is Ultimate Chicken Horse.
Okay, tell me about it.
I can't tell you about it because you have to experience it.
Acha.
The best puzzle game, in my opinion, is a game. I can't tell you about these games because I will take your joy away of discovery what this game is. Is Baba Is You. Okay. It's a very small game. You might even call it ugly, but it was made in 3 days at a game jam. And it has been one of the most profound puzzle experiences that I've ever had. It's for, I think, 500 rupees or something. Spend that money.
Amazing.
And get that game. Just beautiful design.
Which is your favorite cards game?
My favorite cards game of late has been a game called Compile.
Okay.
It's a newish card game. It's 2-player where you're basically trying to score 3 points before the opponent. Beautiful, wonderful game. Play that very, very often. Hopefully getting the Indian rights for it. Fingers crossed.
Oh, wow.
I've played a lot of Cabo. I don't know if you've played it.
I haven't.
It's fun game. Cabo, you also find Cabo to be under different brand names called Cabo or Silver. So you can get your hands on those. But I've also had great narrative experiences in games. Again, Her Story and Her Story 2 are just basic examples. But I would also like to talk about a game called This War of Mine.
Okay.
I played This War of Mine in 2014. Still played, it still stands. It's still a great game. Because the game doesn't necessarily depend on visual design or graphics. It's just good gameplay. It's a game set in a war, but you're not a soldier.
Okay.
You're a civilian who's caught in a civil war, who's trying to survive. And you're inside a house. And you're playing multiple characters inside the house. You're building beds, you're eating, getting food. At night, when the firing stops, you go out to get supplies.
Oh.
And you come back in the day, and you sleep in the day, and you work in the day. Night, you go out to get supplies. Every night, you go out.
Wow.
This one incident I had in the game, and I'll spoil it for you a bit, is I went out and I broke into this house. It seemed empty, and I opened the kitchen, I found canned food, started taking it. This old woman comes up and says, please don't take our food. We will die. Old couple. And now you're left with the thing. Should I take this old couple's food or should I not take the old couple's food? And for the sake of the game, I took the food. I went away. I came back to the same location to see if there are more food left 2 days later. And I found, not 2 days, 2 weeks later. And I found them dead. They had died of starvation because of food I took away from them. Now, seeing this scene in a film with a good director at the helm would be great. Being the catalyst for this interaction to happen is a different experience altogether. It's been 10 years since, and I'm like, yaar, ye kya moment tha ek?
Oh man.
So that is a great, great game that I think everyone should play. Again, great narrative experience is this game called Disco Elysium.
Oh yes.
Director's
yes,
cut.
Yes, yes.
The director's cut has voice acting, and it's just such a fun narrative experience.
Yeah. Rohan also recommended.
I'm just going to maybe put a series out of games that non-gamers should play to get into gaming. Because I feel like almost no one says I don't listen to music, or no one says that I don't watch movies, because they're like, of course everyone does it.
Yeah.
But gaming as an in-group and an out-group. And that's also gamers' fault, saying, yaar, hum gamer, you're not a real gamer. I think more people should be playing games. It's a very fundamental media format. And I think it is the job of experienced gamers like us to handhold people saying, okay, not a gamer, start here.
Yeah, but अपनी million views वाली collab post बन रही है कि games that non-gamers should play. So please give more additions to it.
Viewfinder.
Okay.
Viewfinder is a beautiful game. Simple. I think console पे भी है, PC पे भी है. Where you're taking a camera and taking photos.
Okay.
But now you can take that photo, place it anywhere, and walk into the photo.
Oh.
So now you will see a gap over here between you and where you have to be. So you go somewhere else, you take a photo of a bridge. You take it and you put it on the ground over here, and suddenly bridge ban gaya hai.
Yeah.
And you walk through the photo to reach the other side.
Wow.
So Viewfinder is a beautiful game that everyone should play.
Have you played Gris?
Yes.
I love Gris.
Gris is a great game.
Neva, the one which came out by
Neva I haven't played yet. Gris I loved.
Yeah.
Just the art style, the feeling, everything was just beautiful.
Yeah.
If you like Gris and you want something more intense, Celeste.
Which one?
Celeste. Yeah, CELESTE. The best platforming experience I've ever had.
एक मेरे लिए कोई आप लाइक कस्टमाइज्ड रिकमेंडेशन मेरे को ना एटमॉस्फेरिक गेम्स जहाँ डिस्टोपिक वर्ल्ड्स देखने को मिल रहे हैं FPS काइंड ऑफ और लाइक हिटमैन लाइक स्टाइल में हो जहाँ पे आपको एक मिशन करना हो ओपन वर्ल्ड नहीं हो मेरे को मिशन
Have you played Deathloop?
No.
It's not atmospheric, but it's a Hitman-esque game.
Okay.
If Hitman was a genre, it's a Hitman-esque game. Basically, you are doing the same thing you do in Hitman, which is there's things going on clockwork and you have to find the right intervention to make things happen. But this is happening across 5 levels. And it has a cascade effect on each one. And you have to solve 5 levels simultaneously.
Okay.
It's a beautiful gaming experience. Try it out.
And dystopic game, like any dystopic game from across all genres.
This War of Mine Start with that.
This War of Mine.
Yeah. Just start with that. The one I told you about with the old woman and the man.
Yeah.
That's the game. You have to play it.
Amazing. जाने से पहले हम आपको चलचित्र की मर्च देना चाहते हैं, जिसके बाद हम आप हमें प्रीमियम वर्जन शासन का होपफुली भिजवा देंगे.
अभी मैंने पूछता हूँ कि you have copy left, I'll send it to you.
Yeah. So there is a hoodie.
Thank you so much.
And this, yeah.
Who did your branding?
Sorry?
Who did your branding?
There is a girl मैं आपको connect करा सकता हूँ उनसे.
It's very confident work. क्योंकि काम में ज़्यादा करना is requires a certain amount of confidence.
Yeah. See, I love the logo. I love this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
And hope to see you soon. And
yes.
let's keep. And I'm so excited.
Go out. Check out the new game.
Maya
It is Maya bhi hai, but the new other games are launching. While I am the audience, is also wait for an audience that is not a Shasan audience, because politics and 5 hours not everyone has.
Yeah.
So we have a easy themed aggressive game.
Nice.
That lasts 1 hour.
Amazing.
So okay, come, I'll make you play it.
Done.
If Jaipur mein creators happen, of course I'll tell you.
Done. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.